First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, appreciate you joining us. We are live on the Fox 12 Oregon app, on the website, and of course our social media channels as well. So you can join in on YouTube and Facebook and let us know what you're thinking, what your thoughts are as we go throughout the show. Right now, we're talking about something, though, I think for every Oregonian has been controversial in one way, shape, or form. And that is the law to pump your own gas, which passed, I believe it went into effect in about August. So we've had a few months of this right now. Previous, it had been since back in the 50s. Before that, it had been something that you could do here in Oregon. I know for people who move to Oregon or are relatively new, it's sometimes a surprise to them to know that that's how it was. But that's it. New Jersey now, I believe, is the only other state that has that on the books. But there are some different thoughts on this as far as whether or not it has been successful, whether people are happy about it, and there is now an initiative to repeal it. And that is what we're going to be talking about right now, and perhaps the reasoning behind that initiative and what the thought process is to do so. We are joined now. We're going to be joined by Miles, who is going to be talking about how this is all going about and what the reasoning is behind. And Miles from the UFCW 555. And Miles, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate you being here with us today to talk about this. And I know, there are a lot of opinions on both sides of this situation, but I was hoping, to start off, if you could explain just a little bit about, whoop, there he goes. And there he's back. And Miles, I think you could hear us. And
I didn't realize my lights weren't on, and so I wanted to brighten things up a little.
That helps. That's great. Looking good. And what I was hoping we could do is just, if you could explain a little bit about, I guess, the union as well, so everybody knows where you're coming from and who you're representing, and then talk about the law and what it is, that you're thinking on. What is the thought process behind this initiative?
So I'm Miles Eshaia, Communications Coordinator for United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW Local 555. We represent grocery workers, healthcare workers. You may have noticed Kaiser workers are currently out on ULP strike. We represent, we just organized a comic book store. I mean, we kind of do it all. Where workers are in need, we're there.
Yeah, covering a lot of things. And you mentioned the Kaiser side of things too, and I think we're going to touch on that also. So
sure. That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll get into that and talk certainly about that as well. But talking about the gas law, the pump your own gas law, and the initiative now that you've launched, and we have coverage of this at KPTV, and that's why we want to do a deeper dive on this, just to really go into a little more about what it is that you see as the issue with it, and maybe I guess let's walk through that from the beginning here.
A little bit of history. I mean, so this was something that came up during the legislative session. And one of the questions I've been asked is, why didn't UFCW bring up these issues that we have during legislative session? And the truth is, we gathered that this bill was fast-tracked to pass on both sides of the aisle. We were told by Julie Fahey's office, who's the House Majority Leader, that if we refrained from opposing or commenting on the bill, we would have another bill to expand workers' rights and organizing opportunities in the form of HB 3183 that would move alongside the self-serve bill. That didn't happen. That turned out to not be true, but, big oil definitely got their grift, as I call it. You have to remember that this has been something that has been in the works for large oil corporations, most profitable corporations in our country since the late 50s, early 60s. How do we eliminate market wage jobs so we can keep more money, pull money out of Oregon's economy, and take it and give it to Wall Street? What do we do to do that? And the obvious way is, well, we get rid of workers and we make individuals pump their own gas. And this has been something that's happened all across the country. Oregon and New Jersey were bastions against this, because it was Oregon. It was us. We cared about workers. The interesting part about all this is we're exploring a repeal. It would be IP 50, Initiative Proposal 50. We filed this yesterday, and there's been a lot of interest on it. It doesn't even have a title yet because they haven't even gotten that far. But, this, like you said earlier, this is a controversial topic. People want to talk about it. We're supporting this act because of accessibility. People with disabilities should have full access to gas stations and other public accommodation. period. Safety. Nationwide, 2/3 of all civilian injuries caused by gas station fires are due to unintentional human error. We actually asked for new information. That's from 2020. We haven't received it yet. And the workforce. I mean, the effect of eliminating job positions around the state with workers being transferred elsewhere, quitting via attrition, not being replaced, less jobs, more people looking for work, which is bad for workers. It's bad for working people. This bill was passed, by political parties. It was not voted on by the people. So to be clear, we're trying to bring to the people the chance for them to actually have a say. Right now, it's currently you can't pump, but this would change into you can make a choice and have your voices heard. I have long said that Republicans are the party of big business and religion. Democrats are the party of big business. Workers have no one. We need unions and we need things like this to be in place in order to protect working people. I can go on further, but you probably want to ask more questions.
That's okay. No, that's a lot that you just had right there. So looking at it, I guess I'll tackle a couple of things that you mentioned in there. One of them you said accessibility, being a concern for people, with accessibility issues to get out and pump their own gas. It seems that a lot of gas stations do still have attendants there to accommodate those kinds of situations. Would a 50-50 kind of situation be something that is more amenable, or are you concerned that all the gas stations are eventually going to get rid of any kind of attendant and it would just be completely self-pump?
The rule is it's supposed to be 50-50 now. But I guarantee you everyone has people who have gotten gas at gas stations since and have pulled up and go, oh, there's no one here. I guess I'm going to go out, or that person's inside, or that person's busy. Stations that may have had 3 attendants might have 1. I don't know specifically how, businesses are staffing this, but it's very clear, at least from my own personal experience, that maybe they're not as staffed as they should be. I've seen lines longer in some cases where people are trying to figure out machines or fumble with them, and now you're waiting on other people as opposed to waiting for an attendant to get to you. It might be longer. It might be more convenient if there's no one there and you know exactly what you're doing, and you pull in and you grab the thing and you fill up your tank and then leave. Sure, but this whole thing is in consideration of other people. Maybe someone late at night doesn't want to get out of their car because they don't feel safe because it's a dark area. I mean, the station's lit, but maybe they don't feel comfortable. They want someone to pump their gas for them out of safety. Small children in the car, that kind of thing. Maybe they don't know how. Maybe they just don't want to do it because they're uncomfortable. The thing is, this doesn't reduce gas prices. We've shown time and time and time again all across the country as these laws have come into place that they don't really lower gas prices. You're just giving more money to an oil company and more money being ripped out of Oregon's economy. It's a grift.
So if this were to be successful, this initiative, this would completely repeal that to go back to no self-pump at all.
I mean, as it's designed now, yeah, that'd be where we're at. But the point is, people get to decide. People didn't get a chance to vote on this. I've had calls, people calling in saying, well, are you trying to overturn the will of the people? It's like, well, people didn't have their will expressed. They didn't. This was a big deal, a big change to Oregon. As you said, everyone has opinions about it. So, yes. Yeah, I mean, the right to vote on something is the basis of our democracy. So what I would say to our detractors this early in the case is, if this is something you don't want, you don't have to vote for it. If you want to pump your own gas, then you can vote for it, assuming we get that far, come July of next year.
And I guess that was my next question too, is what has the feedback been like so far since you made this announcement, and what are the steps to actually have this initiative go through?
What's absolutely wild about this is I expected, because we do have a public phone number, people call in, I get calls transferred to me all the time, from public. I was expecting like a 50-50 mix. I've had like 2 people call in just outraged, and amazingly enough, once they kind of hear what we're really doing, which is giving people a choice, saying that maybe politicians in Salem should have maybe referred this, or maybe should have not made the decision for Oregonians. Once you kind of frame it like that, most people are actually leaving pretty neutral, which is a great place, in my opinion. And the feedback we've gotten has been actually overwhelmingly positive. Like, where do we sign? And we can't even gather signatures yet because this happened yesterday.
Wow. Yeah. So when can you start gathering signatures?
I actually don't know, because it has to go through a Secretary of State process. Like, that's the nutty thing about this, is it's so fresh that usually IPs don't even get media coverage because they haven't even met the bar starting bar, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what, but with this kind of a topic, with this thing that everybody's got an opinion on, yeah, I can see why it's getting a lot of, I mean, it's why we're talking about it right now too, partially,
Sure.
just
Yeah.
because yeah, it is something that, it's a very uniquely Oregon thing in the aspect of what it's about. What you're discussing with yours, that's something that affects everybody. But as far as pumping your own gas, that is us in New Jersey. You know, this discussion's not really being had a lot of other places, I would imagine. So I think that's
Well,
why.
they had it. They had it. You know,
Yeah.
this is the ongoing campaign by Big Oil to make more money for the past 60 years. This started in the late 50s, early 60s. I mean, they have had discussions about it, and over time, it's taken this long to eliminate market wage jobs. That's how long it's taken. And Oregon was one of the last bastions of it. The people who are most upset, I think, are people who are, oh, I'm in a hurry. I can just pull up, jump out of my car. I'm fine, and I'm going to get out of here, which is great. I mean, if you're one of those people, that's awesome. But that's not everybody. Oregon has always been kind of a kinder, more thoughtful place than the rest of the country. That's why I live here. It's why I love it. And so it's kind of uniquely an Oregon thing, and it has been for a long time, that in New Jersey.
Well, going from there, and I'm sure we're getting a lot of opinions in here. I'll see if I can pull some of those up of people who have their thoughts on it. But let's switch gears. You mentioned,
Sure.
at the top, you represent a lot of different organizations, a lot of different facets of workers, and one of those has to do with what's going on with Kaiser. And without me setting this up, I would like it if you could just explain where you're at and what it is that you're working on right now when it comes to Kaiser.
Well, we have additional bargaining dates coming up tomorrow. It's on the 27th. We're Kaiser workers who are under pharmacy contracts, so pharmacy workers, pharmacy clerks, are currently out on unfair labor practice strike. There's a number of reasons, what those specific unfair labor practices are. You can deal with unfair labor practices as part of bargaining. The unfair labor practices are dealing with patient care, protecting patient care, and getting our pharmacy techs back to work. Like, that's the most important thing. The situation at Kaiser is continuing to deteriorate. It's placing patients at risk. Kaiser needs to come back to the table and get serious about dealing with unfair labor practices. Really get serious about it. I think last time at the bargaining table as well, aside from the unfair labor practices, the Kaiser over the life of the contract was looking at a 20% wage increase. We're looking at 43 over the life of 4 years. Pharmacy technicians are the lifeblood of Kaiser, and they're the ones who give mixed cancer drugs. They're the ones who give medicine to NICUs, individual patients, asthma medication, whatever it is. Pharmacy technicians do it all. And now on November 1st, if these unfair labor practices are not dealt with, we're going to be having the imaging technicians join that unfair labor practice strike as well, which includes X-ray, mammography, MRIs, CTs, nuclear medicine, EEGs, cardiovascular labs, special procedures technologists, sonographers, dosimetrists, radiation therapists, imaging analysts. You can't do anything at a hospital without imaging. Kaiser needs to get back to the table here, and needs to come back and deal with this stuff. Get serious.
And you mentioned November 1st would be the date that could go into effect or would go into effect.
Yes, we've given notification that it will begin on Wednesday, November 1st at 6 a.m. Because it's an unfair labor practice strike. We have to give a start and an end date. Assuming that's where we're at. Kaiser needs to come to the table, deal with these unfair labor practices, and get a good deal out for these members so they can get back to work. They want to take care of patients. They're healthcare workers. They're in it because they want to help people. Let them do it.
And where are the negotiations right now? Have you met with Kaiser from your side, or are there ongoing negotiations and moderation?
Negotiations are ongoing. We have the next scheduled bargaining up. The next scheduled date is October 27th, so tomorrow. Okay. So, I mean, it's not like this is the first of it. We've been in talks for some time.
Okay, and then tomorrow you're going back to the table for more negotiations. Yes. Okay, all right. And as you mentioned, if nothing happens, November 1st would be that day. So certainly a big day coming up. I mean, that's less than a week away. So
it'd be about 600 imaging workers and almost 400 pharmacy technicians would be out at that point on unfair labor practice strike.
Wow. So a lot happening here over this next week when it comes to that. And certainly we'll be following along with that and keeping up to date with that. And Miles, I want to say thank you very much for joining us.
Sure.
And just being honest, giving your opinion, telling us what you think, what your thought process is on that. And that's one of the things I really like here with Fox 12 Now, with the show we get to do is have discussions, but also just listen to opinions, listen to thought process, listen to the reasoning behind what it is that you're doing, and also getting up to date on where you're at. And you've been great to do that. So I really, really appreciate that.
Absolutely. You have any questions coming in from your various feeds you want answered, or are you just gonna
it's a lot of people saying yes or no to pumping gas. Honestly, as simple as no, yes, no pumping your own gas. Local gas stations let their staff go. I see that from Kevin. Andre says no, leave it alone. Let people pump their own gas. So I think once they hear what your explanation was on that, I think that may address some of those questions that you did actually address those. But yeah, I imagine we'll be getting a lot of those that are coming in as far as people on their opinions. But that's one of the things that we get to do. We get to have debates like this, and people can voice their opinions. And as you mentioned, if the initiative goes through, then and wherever it is in that process right now, as we wait to find out before people can sign it, then we'll find out more from there. I'm sure it's going to be a long process. I think you mentioned next July is when that would actually go through if it did actually happen. Is that right?
Yeah. So the other thing I would mention is one of the other questions we always seem to give you, it would be in July. Sorry. The other thing I would like to mention is won't consumers see some cost savings as a result of self-serve? And that's just never happened in any state this has gone through in. It's not, because it's a grift. Like that's the most important thing to remember here. I really wish that this had been something that had been referred to the voters, so the voters could have actually decided. But no, it was fast-tracked by a legislator's office who decided that we're going to push this through anyway, even though we had an agreement that if you stayed out of it, an organizing bill to make workers' lives better would move along with it, and that didn't happen. So we should we're going to let Oregonians decide if we push this through. And I really hope we do, because Oregonians deserve the right to choose. That's the whole point here. So we'll put a bill up. Let them make a vote. We'll let them choose. Then we'll know.
There we go. Well, Miles, thank you very much for joining me here on Fox 12 Now. I really, really appreciate it. I'm sure you've got a lot going on, too, with representing all of these different people and different groups, and with negotiations with Kaiser as well. So thanks for your time. Thanks, Miles. Thanks for being here with us.
You're welcome. Happy to be here anytime.
All right. Have a great day.
Take care.
See, this is part of the thing that we get to do here with Fox 12 Now. So again, for all of you who are joining us live, this is your first time watching. This is a show that goes on every weekday, 1 p.m. Pacific. We're here live streaming on all of those different channels. We get to have more conversations. We get to hear from different people. We get to have talks. We have interviews. It's a wide range of things that we cover. I think somebody here said there's a little something for everybody. So this was obviously a discussion that's near and dear to Oregonians, one way or another, but we've got more coming up here on today's show. So around 1:30 p.m., I'm going to be joined by Eric G. from Around the House Northwest. We're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about smart homes. We're going to talk about internet, Wi-Fi, how to make sure Wi-Fi covers your entire house. So some tips and tricks on that I think everybody can really take advantage of, and we're going to get a preview of that week's episode. But there's something else that's new here. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we're going to be logging off, and we'll be back on at 1:30. But if you're watching on the app, if you're watching on the website, there's something more happening. So we've got more coverage that we'll continue doing here with Fox 12 Now, and you'll have to watch those on the website or the app. So it's a good idea to maybe hop on over to kptv.com, or maybe download the Fox 12 Oregon app if you don't have those already, and just click the Fox Now button, and you can Fox 12 Now button, and you can watch along. But for those of you watching on social media, I'll talk to you soon. For those on the other ones, stick around. We'll be right back.